we meet Shallow Hal, and this chubby little guy is at his dad's deathbed. And instead of his dad saying something deep or sentimental, this man is basically like, only date hot chicks with huge knockers, son. And Hal basically makes it his life mission to do just that. Hal grows up obviously super shallow, and his dating standards are... yeah. And we see him at the club with his friend Mauricio. Mauricio, I would argue, is actually worse than Hal. I don't even know why this movie is about Hal. We should be watching Mauricio, the man with a foot fetish, who tells Hal that he plans on breaking up with his girlfriend because her toe is a little too long for him. Yeah, Hal is on a walk with this woman he's currently dating. She basically breaks up with him because she's not attracted to him. Rightfully so. Hal is like, but I'm about to get promoted. She's like, no, bro. Leave me the fuck alone. The next morning, Hal is going to work and he finds out he did not get the promotion. He's a little bit slumped over it. So his work colleagues, they're there to cheer him up. They tell him he needs to seek therapy and stop being as shallow because it's ruining his dating experiences. Hal is leaving work and he's entering this elevator with this tall, attractive man whose name goes by Tony. And he's known for hypnotizing people. And the elevator essentially gets stuck. Hal is like, well, I just met this guy. Let me tell him my whole life story and my whole dating history. Hal has told him everything. Tony is like, yeah, you're definitely the problem. I'm the solution. Tony hypnotizes Hal into being less shallow. Hal walks out the elevator. He's not thinking much, but then he meets this beautiful woman and they take the taxi ride home. Hal doesn't realize he is basically seeing her inner beauty while other people are seeing her for what she really looks like. So while Hal is gawking at this woman, the taxi driver is like, what the fuck is this man on? Hal and Mauricio at the club. Mauricio goes off to go use the toilet, probably taking a shit. This beautiful redhead approaches Hal. She takes Hal to meet her friends. Honestly, I love this scene because like the way he's like popping that shit. Like, look at that tongue action. Mauricio comes out the bathroom after taking a huge dump, sees Hal dancing with these women. He's like, oh fuck no, these girls are ugly as fuck. What is bro doing? He tries to get Hal out of that situation, but Hal is like, no, these women are hot, I'm staying. And Mauricio was like, yeah, fuck that shit, I'm out. We now get to meet the main girl. I don't know why this man is shopping in a woman's clothing store. We meet Rosemary. Hal is just in shock by her beauty. He has to approach her and he has to let her know that she's buying big ass knickers. Somehow he talks his way out of that and gets her number. They end up going out to this little cute diner and her big fucking ass ends up breaking this steel chair. I don't even know how that's possible. Then Hal ends up going full Karen mode on this innocent employee because his girlfriend is too fat for the fucking chair. And then they leave the diner. These two guys laugh at how big his woman is, and Hal takes it as them laughing at how big he is. He goes in there and he lets them know. He lets them know that he might be chubby, but he has a beautiful big thing out there. And they're like, yeah, you got that, bro. Hal and Rosemary are now saying their goodbyes. Hal finds out that Rosemary is actually his boss's daughter, Steve Shanahan. The next day, Hal and Mauricio are at the park, and Mauricio is discussing his taste for feet and how long he likes the toes on women. Yeah. But anyways, Hal sees Rosemary and introduces Rosemary to Mauricio. That night, Hal and Rosemary are walking to Hal's apartment, which is like, we see Jill, the girl that broke it off with Hal. They get introduced to each other. Rosemary ends up getting mad at Hal and starting an argument because she's like, what are you talking about? You keep calling me this beautiful, thin woman, but I'm actually an obese, ginormous cow. And she ends up getting mad, walking off. Hal is upset about this and ends up telling Mauricio what happened. Rosemary knocks on the door and she's like, you know what, I might have overreacted a little bit. All is forgiven and they decide to go out on a pool day. Now somebody tell me why this big bitch decides that she's gonna jump in that pool, make a big ass splash, and make a kid fly all the way up to a fucking tree. How does that work? Hal's dumbass is just looking in awe like the dumb bitch he is. He's not thinking in his head, something's off here. Why is my skinny queen, why is she making kids fly off on a fucking tree? Rosemary decides that it's now time to introduce Hal to her parents. So Hal meets them for dinner. Steve is basically like, you don't actually want my daughter. She's big and ugly. And Hal is like, what the fuck? Rosemary and Hal spend the night together. Jill opens her door to see Rosemary wandering off. And Jill is like, oh hell, if she can get him, I need to have him because God forbid a man stops giving me attention. So she goes knocking on Hal's door, asking him to go on a date with her, and Hal's like, yeah, no, and slams the door in her face. Hal ends up getting a great promotion and his colleagues come to congratulate him, to which they meet Rosemary. They end up finding out that Rosemary is the daughter of their boss, Steve. And now his co-workers are very disappointed in him because they they think he is using Rosemary, and they end up walking off. The scene is not that important, but I'm bringing it up to talk about the fact that Mauricio is now talking about Rosemary's ankles. This is getting out of hand. Hal and Rosemary go off to a bar together where Hal meets Rosemary's ex-boyfriend. Hal sees Ralph as this pretty boy. Hal and Rosemary end up enjoying the night together. The next day, Mauricio finds Tony. Mauricio is trying to convince and pressure Tony into taking the hypnosis off of Hal, but Tony's not budging. He's not taking shit off Hal because he thinks it's benefiting his life. But Mauricio, he's all like, but what about me? But what about me? What about I want to be shallow with my best friend? Why can't we judge women together? And Tony is like, you know what? Fuck these ugly bitches. Tony ends up telling Mauricio what he's supposed to say to take the trans off Hal. That night, Rosemary and Hal are on their date, and Rosemary ends up breaking her second chair of the week. So Hal, being the Karen he is, he goes up to the front desk to complain. Hal gets a call from Mauricio, who is like, Shallow Hal wants a gal. That supposedly is what breaks his hypnosis. Now that his hypnosis is broken, he now sees women for what they truly look like. He is trying to walk back to his table with Rosemary, but he's seeing a big woman from behind. He's like, that ain't my girl. Who the fuck is that? And while he's about to go confront that woman, Mauricio grabs Hal like he's trying to kidnap. I don't know how Hal doesn't start screaming, but he grabs Hal out that restaurant and he's like, you were hypnotized. And Hal's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And now Hal is actually seeing the women for how they always looked like. So now Hal is mad at Mauricio because this is your fault. I built up a relationship with this woman. And you made... Rosemary starts knocking on the door and they're like, oh fuck. So he's trying to figure out what to do. He ends up convincing her that he has some sort of disease by wiping Vaseline on his eyes, and she grabs his face and doesn't feel the fucking Vaseline on his face. Like, look how much Vaseline he has in his face, and she's touching that shit. She's touching this man's Vaseline oiled up face, and she feels no grease on her big ass fingers, on her fat stubby fingers. Now Hal has been avoiding Rose, and she's calling him like, I know something's up, motherfucker. You think you're slick, bitch? You think you're fucking slick? And he's like, just give me a couple days, because he is trying to wait because him and Mauricio are trying to find Tony so that he can hypnotize this attention-seeking hungry bitch. Comes back to Hal and she's like, please go on a date with me, go on a date with me. He says yes. They're on a date. Rosemary and her family come into the restaurant, to which Rosemary sees Hal and Jill on the fucking date. Rosemary's like, this man has been ignoring my calls and now he's on a date with this bitch. So she ends up going to the toilet to go cry her eyes out, and she doesn't get to see where Hal rejects Jill. So now Hal is going to the phone booth to go call Rosemary, and he ends up actually passing the real Rosemary, but he's just seen a big woman and he's like, hey. Okay, I don't know why I found that funny. Anyways, Hal ends up calling Rosemary while she walks out the restaurant, and she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You just ignored me, you stupid bitch. And she hangs up the phone. Now Hal is sad and he doesn't know what to do because she's not returning his call and she wants nothing to do with him. So he's discussing this with Mauricio, and Mauricio is like, listen man, I'm gonna make you feel better by telling you that I have a tail. Yeah, Mauricio has a dog tail, and we're all just supposed to act like this is normal. We end up finding out that the reason he might have a foot fetish is actually because he's scared of women. So because of his fear of women, he now has a foot fetish, and he ends up loving the feet of women. But the foot fetish is making him have particular taste in feet for women, so he ends up getting scared of the women who don't have the foot fetish type of feet that he likes to see with the foot fetish on the feet of women. Mauricio drives Hal to Ralph because they think that Ralph and Rosemary have got back together. Hal confronts Ralph, and Ralph tells Hal, well actually, she's having a getting away party and I'm not even invited. So now Hal is like, wait, what? And they off to Rosemary, and he runs in and says, Rosemary. She looks at him and she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And her dad is like, what the fuck is he doing here? And then he gives her this big dramatic speech in front of everyone, and he's like, I don't care how big you are, I love you for you. And she's like, oh my god, I love you too. And then they kiss, go off in their car. He's like, I'm traveling with you, we're moving out of here together, I'm leaving my job and my friends and my family for you. And then they ride off into the sunset, everybody's cheering and they're happy for them. And Mauricio, he sees this woman with a cute little dog, and he's like, oh, she has a dog with a tail. I have a tail. I'm like a little dog too. So let me try to approach her, maybe have a chance. And they go off. So yeah.